Let's pretend, just for the sake of discussion, that you are on your computer looking at some sort of social media, or you're sitting around a dinner table with your family, your extended family on a holiday, and they've come from different places more than just the usual, or something else is happening here in a group, and a discussion breaks out about religion or politics or some other controversial thing, maybe some news report or something like that, and the people around the table have some very strong opinions, but it doesn't sound quite right to you. Something is wrong. Would you like a quick 10-minute or less lesson on how to put your finger on what's wrong with that discussion? For this particular devotional video, I'll start with Logic 101 right after we get a little shot of nature. I think I'll start at the very beginning. That is just simple Logic 101, the easiest place to start, which is probably also, for my students over the past few years, the most eye-opening place to start. And that is simply the difference between an argument and just plain arguing. An argument has three parts, always. If it doesn't have these three parts, it's not an argument. So when you are watching some discussion going on YouTube or wherever you're watching it at on social media, or you are sitting around a table and the family starts to get hot, or you're around some friends and start arguing about something, if it doesn't have these three things, it is not a valid argument. It's just people blowing off steam, getting mad, getting hot in the, kind of hot around the collar, raising their blood pressure, and just arguing to be arguing with nothing profitable or worthwhile coming out of it. So you look for these points, 3 points in an argument. The first point is the premise. Now, the premise is just the backup statement behind the argument. See if I can think of an example. You shouldn't borrow my car because my car needs to go in the shop and get fixed. Okay, there is this conclusion that we'll talk about in just a moment that you shouldn't borrow my car, and then there's this premise that that my car needs to go in the shop and get fixed. It's not safe to drive right now. Or maybe it's a politician. And you say, this guy is a jerk, or this gal is a jerk. And why? Well, you don't say why. If you don't say why, you can't back it up, then it's not an argument. It's just you shooting off. It's just somebody shooting off steam or just arguing for the sake of arguing, and nothing good's come out of it. We shouldn't be in this war. Okay, that's a nice opinion. But back it up. Why should we not be in this war? Why is the idea of what the war is about wrong? If you can't bring out the why, then the statement doesn't matter what the what is. And if you're listening to a argument going on and people are just shooting out all sorts of things and statements and stuff like that, but they're not giving back, it's like, who says so? Where do you find that data? If you can't find that, then you're just wasting your time in that arguing because it's not a real argument. Nothing about it is. Not only is an argument not an argument unless it has support, a premise, but the argument's only as good, only as strong as the premise is strong. And so if you come up with a premise, this is, how it should be because of this, and then you're just blowing smoke and inventing the premise, That's not really an argument. Now let's go to the second thing that is necessary for a real argument, and that is a conclusion. I mean, I can just throw out data all day long. I can look up, find data that matches what I want it to be, and I can say, because of this, because of this, because of this, and throw out premise after premise after premise. But if I don't kind of get off the fence and sooner or later say, and now this is what needs to be done, or this is what I can do, or this is why you should vote this way, or why you should not vote that way, or this is why you should make this change, or this is why you should support this thing. It always has a conclusion. And if you're hearing people argue and they're just throwing out statements, they've watched some kind of a commentary show on TV or on YouTube or something, and they're just throwing out a lot of statements. Oh, this terrible thing happened, that terrible thing happened, that terrible thing happened, but they don't offer a fix for it or what you should do for it. It's not an argument. Again, it's just people that are arguing, and they're just one throws out their set of list and one throws out their set of list. Nothing productive is designed to come from it. Nothing, they don't expect it to. That's without a conclusion, it's not an argument. So an argument always has to have a premise, a reason, a support that leads to a conclusion. And if you're hearing people go on and on and on for hours or for days without those things, you're wasting your time. Just get out of that conversation. Because in all likelihood, if a person's stuck in those conversations, it's going to be hard to get them out of them. Even if you ask, well, where do you get this premise? Where do you get that idea? Well, are there any other possibilities besides this conclusion you have or something? If they're not putting it all together, it's possible, but not so likely you're going to get them to have a full-fledged, thoughtful argument because they've never learned how. And let me add the third part of an argument. Now, if I'm going to be honest, when I first started talking about arguments and teaching arguments and logic, I didn't add this part. I just thought this was part of the conclusion. But as I went on, I found that there are lots of people that have premises and they have conclusions and they get, like I said, hotter on the collar, but they don't have any plan, any purpose, any hope of making a difference. They're not really trying to make a difference with it. And so if you have an argument, you need a premise, a statement that backs it up. You need the conclusion to the argument. And for it to be a real argument, you need a purpose for it to be there. I mean, if you say that you want to reinforce somebody's views of politics that's maybe waffling a little bit, that's a purpose. If you want to say you want to change somebody's vote, that's a purpose. If you want to say, I want to spur somebody to action so that they will be more sincere and do something profitable for those that are down and out in our society, that's a purpose. If you want to spur them on to how they're going to invest their finances or something, that's a purpose. If you both go into an argument with this person has this view, this person has this view, and neither one of them are going to change their views. Both of them think they're smart because they have different premises backing up their views, and they come to a conclusion that each other's wrong, but neither one of them ever seriously expected to change anybody's opinion. That's just arguing for the sake of arguing. That's not an argument. That's the difference between arguing and argument. An example. I sometimes read this one online social media page, and it's between people of different religious faiths. And they get really hot under the collar and they get really strong, and there are books written to support this view, books written to support this view, and so they know all of the arguments. They know all of the premises. They know which side, but in all the time I've watched them, I've never seen somebody change from one point of view to the other, and I've never seen somebody well, once or twice I've seen somebody just wash their hands of it and say, I'm not going to be part of this anymore. It's just a waste of my time. That's not a real argument or even a real discussion unless there's a purpose for it. That's just arguing to be arguing. Well, we're about to the middle of another week. On Sunday, we get to come back together and worship our Lord together again. I'm looking forward to it, as I always am. And I'll give you a warning. For the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm not sure what day or if these devotions will be posted. Because I have 3 weeks or four weeks of straight activities coming up with my family. Traveling or else camping or something or the other. And I just don't know but what they will... It'll be hard to guarantee when I'll be close to the internet. May God help to keep you out of frivolous, wasteful, useless arguing, and may God give you the wisdom to open your mouths with a purpose that glorifies Him, and may God bless you as you go along through this week.